In this short course, we'll take a look at an overarching sales strategy and mindset, as well as digging a little bit into some specifics of buyers and sellers. So let's look at some overall tips to get started. It's really important to not think of new contacts or new inquiries as leads. They're people, they're all unique. It gets really easy to lump them into a lead. They're in no way related. So if you get one person coming in inquiring about something and you get someone 5 minutes later coming in inquiring about something, it's really important to differentiate and not just say, oh, well, all these leads are bad, because 1 out of 10 being a really strong person to give you business is kind of the way the business works. So it's really important not to just lump people in and think of them as leads. Also, to ask questions and listen to answers. One really good tip for this is actually just to write answers down. It keeps you from speaking. It makes sure that you're listening. And then you also have a record after the fact of some of the things that they said so that you can remember them and use them during the course of your transaction. Asking open-ended questions is also a great way to engage better with people and get more information. So try not to ask yes or no questions. Try to ask questions that evoke feeling and that are really good to let them talk and tell you more about their goals, their motivation, and what they're looking for. Also, smile when you talk, even on the phone. People can hear it in your voice, and it does make a huge difference. Response time is absolutely critical, and especially initially. Once you get into a transaction with somebody, or you get into the process of looking, or you guys have committed to each other, it's not necessarily as important that you're on call for them. However, when people first come in, ideally even having some sort of auto response is definitely good, but finding that blend of being quick but also knowledgeable and an expert is really important. Having a system to nurture contacts is more important than ever. People are not afraid to put in their email address online, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to transact with you one day. It just may mean they just want some basic information right now. They're just dipping their toe. They're curious about their neighbor's home. But having a good system to nurture the people who have reached out to you, as well as your past clients and sphere, is really, really absolutely critically important. And finding tasteful ways to stay top of mind. That can be social media. It can be a quick text to say, how are you doing? Do you need anything? Staying top of mind is more important than ever. The world is super noisy. And it's just good if you can find just that right blend of being top of mind without being annoying. And having a unique value proposition and being able to state it. It's really important that you can communicate this to people that want to work with you. Your unique value proposition is not selling houses. Anyone can do that. Anyone can fill in blanks in a contract. But really having a simple and quick explanation for why people should work with you and why you're good at what you do is really important. And not only being able to state it, but actually being an expert. You should spend any time you can learning the market, relevant inventory, if possible, even before returning or making a call to someone if they've inquired on a specific property, especially if it's not your listing, just to know what you're talking about. Again, walking that line of being quick, but also knowing what to say. If you're quick and you have no idea the answer to any of the questions they have, that's not going to matter. If you're an expert and you don't call them back for 3 days, that's not really going to help you either. So finding that line. And then finally, asking for the business. There comes a point in all of this where you have to just say, hey, I'd love to work with you guys. Are you committed to working with me? Or something to that effect. But simply asking for the business or asking for referral business. Let's look at some overall buyer tips. Buyers are frequently now looking and thinking in terms of their lifestyle. People want to know if they can walk to a park or if there's a Starbucks or a Whole Foods nearby. So speaking in terms of lifestyle, certainly beds, baths, basement are important, but helping people really visualize their lifestyle in this new home is really an important part of this process. It's not just about the data on the MLS sheet, because now everybody can find that anywhere online on a number of websites. So truly helping them understand the community, and maybe even get connected into the community is really where it's at. Also, look for patterns in homes that people like. A lot of times people don't know exactly how the words for what they're looking for. But if you see property with them and they consistently like homes that have an open plan, or if they consistently enjoy seeing a place with a master on a main or a fenced yard, people don't always know how to state that they're looking for something specific. A lot of times they just see it in a home or online, and you'll start to see patterns in properties that they like, and helping them turn that into seeing the property that they like is super important and positions you as an expert. Also, finding properties they can't find, whether it's asking around your office for a buyer need, whether it is mailing people in a certain community that, hey, I've got someone really interested in moving into this community. If you know anybody looking to sell, we'd be interested. There's a lot of ways to do this. We won't go into a lot of detail, but just finding properties that your buyers can't just go find on a portal website or in the MLS really brings value to your job. Also, get to the motivation of why they are buying. If there's a specific time frame, if they're moving to be closer to family, if they're moving away from family, just understand the motivation, and that can really be a key part of this process, and understanding their transition and helping them through that transition. And also talking tastefully about the whole process of buying. Don't overwhelm them with all the things, but as you get into one phase of the transaction or of looking, start to mention that ultimately we'll do an inspection and they'll help us find anything that we may not visibly see, and then I'll walk you through the process of negotiating any repairs that we find. Or as it comes closer to closing, hey, they're going to ask you for a bunch of documents. Make sure you are careful with your wiring instructions and you call to verify them, not just via an email that you get, but really walking them through the whole process, even explaining that they need to bring an ID to closing, anything you can do to walk them tastefully through the process and all of these things that need to happen. Let's take a quick look at this buyer information sheet. This is available for you to download, but just having something on hand when you're talking to a new buyer, whether it's in person or on the phone, just some key items here. The date of contact, where they came from, if they're a referral or if they came from a portal, or how they found you, super important. And then the names of any people involved in the transaction, certainly good to write down kids' names or pets' names or whatever other names you need to be able to remember. Specific areas of interest or schools of interest, beds and baths, as we mentioned before. Construction preference, if there is one, or maybe specific to your area. Any kitchen features like granite or double ovens or anything like that. Type of cabinets. You're welcome to customize this and make it your own, but just wanted to give some sort of script without it being a script, something you help you walk through a conversation with a buyer, and also be sure you have the information you need. There's nothing worse than wrapping up with somebody, a meeting or a call, and then having to ask again, like, how many bedrooms did you say, or which was the thing? So just writing these down in one place can be a great way to make sure you have a good initial call or meeting with someone, and then certainly transferring this data to your CRM after you finish the appointment. Let's look at some seller tips. If you're talking to a potential seller about listing their home, one great thing that you can do is ask them what attracted them to the house or what position they were in when they bought the home. Because most likely their buyer is probably going to be in somewhat of a similar situation to them. If they were empty nesters and they decided to downsize, then you might skew your marketing a little more towards other empty nesters. If it's a growing family, if it's the school districts, try to understand what attracted them to the home. Not only will it get them to better explain to you why they were drawn to the home, but it'll help you identify the persona of a possible buyer that you may be looking to market to. And get to the motivation of why they are selling. This isn't always a pleasant thing. Sometimes it's not a happy thing, or they're being relocated. But really understanding their motivation can be a key part of this process, both with their time frame, potentially the pricing, just really understanding the motivation of why they are selling the home. You should also get to know the recent or neighborhood sales better than they do. They've lived there. They probably personally know people that have sold recently in the neighborhood. So you should go into this appointment or phone call knowing the recent sales better than they do. You should be able to say, oh yeah, but that one had a basement, or that basement wasn't finished, or that one had a steep driveway, even if you just need to drive by some of the homes on your way to the appointment. But you should absolutely know the recent sales better than they do. And also demonstrate that you have a plan to sell their house. I see a lot of agents talk about that they don't need a listing presentation. They have it all memorized. They don't have to read from it. It's not about you reading from it. It's demonstrating that you have a plan. You're there to show them that you have a plan to sell their house. So you don't necessarily have to read through a listing presentation, but leaving additional documents for them to read, or having a listing presentation that you either leave with them or you just flip through briefly while they see it. You don't have to read from it. But I think it's really important that you're there to demonstrate that you have a plan. If you just walk in and start talking, then that's not really demonstrating that you have a plan. So I think it's really important to have, ideally, a listing presentation, whether you get to it or not, just to have it on hand, and also have some sort of documentation or something that you leave after the fact, either for their additional questions or a bit of a written marketing plan, other sales that you've done, testimonials from clients, just something that you can leave behind, because after the fact, they're probably gonna have more questions and they're probably gonna research you a little bit if they haven't already. So worthwhile to just be prepared and demonstrate that you're prepared. Here, the seller information sheet is somewhat similar to the buyer sheet. Obviously, we need to get the names of the people and where they came from and when. Certainly, the street address is a key item. So whether that comes in with the initial inquiry and you can do some homework on it, or if you just need to ask them for it. But best case, you could potentially be prepared to bring up the tax records or other recent sales while you're on the phone. But obviously, the street address is going to be a key item here. Still, any additional names or other key decision makers. Important to ask if they will be purchasing another home. You can provide a referral for them if they're moving out of area or out of state, or certainly if they are buying in your area, then you can help them with that purchase as well. So school district, number of beds, baths, construction style, all the things about the house. Obviously important to have, but those are things you'll be able to dig in later if they agree to list the property with you. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for joining us, and here's to a better sales strategy for us all. Thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for your support.